All right, and finally, we're going to quickly go over worksheet 68 here. So, when we're doing the Pythagorean theorem, the most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, is you need to identify which side is your hypotenuse. All right? It's going to affect the way that we plug each of these numbers in to our Pythagorean theorem, because C, which is our hypotenuse, has to be to the right of the equal sign. Whether we know what our hypotenuse is or whether we don't know what it is, it has to be on the right-hand side. How do I know where my hypotenuse is? Remember, this little right angle sign is pointing right to your hypotenuse. So before you even start plugging things in, before you even write the equation down, identify what side is your C. All right, because now we know, hey, 20 needs to be plugged in for C. 16 squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now technically B should be X here if we say that A is 16, but I'm just going to leave it as B. Doesn't really matter. X is just kind of a placeholder there. But I saw a lot of people start just by taking 16 and 20, plugging in 16 squared plus 20 squared, and then solving for C. We are going to do that sometimes, but not when we know what our hypotenuse is. Also, C squared, I definitely should have wrote 20. There we go. Because 20 is our C. So we get 256 plus B squared equals 400. And when we're missing a leg, right, when we're missing one of these legs, we have to subtract whatever number we have on the left from both sides. So in this case, it's 256. We subtract it from both sides. They cancel on the left, and we get B squared equals 144. Now we're not done just yet because we still have to do our last step, which is taking the square root of both sides. If you square root the left, square root the right, we get B is equal to 12, and in this case it's 12 inches because the units in our question are inches. It's a nice perfect square, 144, so it comes out nice and even. Now if we look at number 2, again we got to identify where is my hypotenuse. My right angle's pointing right to it, so we know that this is our hypotenuse, and we don't know what that number is. So now we're going to plug in 8 for A, 6 for B. Doesn't really matter. If you go the other way, 6 for A, 8 for B. And we're going to set up our equation like that. So notice how we plugged in both numbers on the left, whereas in number 1 we plugged one into the left and one into the right. It all depends on whether we're missing our hypotenuse or whether we're missing a leg. So we can just solve this. 64 plus 36 equals C squared. 100 equals C squared. And we'll take the square root of both sides, giving us C is equal to 10 feet. Moving on down here to number 3. Am I missing my leg or am I missing my hypotenuse? Well, if we look from the right angle, we see that my hypotenuse is 13. That's going to be my C. So we'll have 12 squared plus, I'm going to throw the x in here, plus x squared, almost did it again, equals 13 squared. So 144 plus x squared equals 169. And again, we're going to subtract 144 from both sides, just like we did in number 1 with the 256. So we get x squared is equal to 25, square root both sides, and we get x is equal to 5 meters. Remember, the hypotenuse is the longest side of our triangle. So if we know the longest side is 13, and you get to 25, your brain might forget about this last step and go, oh, 25 must be my answer. But our leg can't be twice as long as our longest side. See what I mean? Let's go to number 4. On this one, we're missing the hypotenuse, so we've got A and B identified as 3 and 4. Hopefully we're starting to recognize this pattern here with the 3 and the 4. 9 plus 16 equals c squared. 25 equals c squared. We square root both sides and get 5 feet. Moving down to 5. On this one, we're missing a leg because my c is 15. So we'll do 9 squared plus x squared equals 15 squared. That gives us 81 plus x squared equals 225. And we'll subtract 81 from both sides. We're left with x squared equals 1, what is that? 81, so 19 plus 125, 144. We'll square root both sides and we get x is equal to 12 centimeters. Finally, number 6, we know what our hypotenuse is. So we can say that A is 15, B is x, C is 17. Just like that. 225 plus x squared equals 289. Subtract 225 from both sides. And we get x squared is equal to 64. Take the square root of both sides and we get x is equal to 8 inches. So the process is almost exactly the same for both situations, but you have to know what your hypotenuse is. If you don't, you're going to plug your numbers in wrong, solve the entire problem wrong, and get the wrong answer. All right? So you definitely, priority number 1, figure out what my hypotenuse is. Whether we're missing it or not, we need to know. Continuing on, we're not going to have as nice and even answers here as we did on the front, but we'll still be able to simplify all our square roots. 3 squared plus 5 squared equals x squared. 9 plus 25 equals x squared. 34 equals x squared. And then we have to square root both sides. 34, if we split that up, it's going to be 2 times 17. There's nothing for us to pull out of that square root, so our answer is just the square root of 34 kilometers. Not just 34 kilometers. If you got x equals 34 kilometers, that is wrong. The square root of 34 kilometers is our answer. That's another really, really common mistake, is people forgetting to include that square root in our answer when we need to. Number 8, we're missing our hypotenuse again. 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. 16 plus 36 equals x squared. 52 equals x squared. Now we can break this up. It's 2 times 26. 26 is 2 times 13. Hey, there's a pair of 2's that we can bring out with a 13 left over. So x is equal to 2 root 13 feet. Down to number 9. We're again missing our hypotenuse. 3 squared plus 9 squared equals x squared. 9 plus 81 equals x squared. Gives us 90 equals x squared. Now we can square root both sides and break this up. 3 times 30, 3 times 10, 5 times 2. I got a pair of 3's I can bring out with that 10 staying behind. So x is equal to 3 root 10 inches. Number 10. Now here, we know what our hypotenuse is. We can see that it's 12. So we'll do 6 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared, just like that. 36 plus x squared equals 144. And we'll subtract, I don't know what just happened there with my pen. We'll subtract 36 from both sides. We get x squared equals 108. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides again and break it up. 108 is 9 times 12. 12 is 4 times 3. 9 is 3 times 3. And 12 is 4 is 2 times 2. So here's our prime factors, 3, 3, 3, 2, and 2. So this 3 is going to get left behind inside the square root, but we're going to bring out a pair of 3's and a pair of 2's and multiply them in the front to get 6. So our answer is 6 root 3 meters. Now number 11 is a little bit tricky. We know what our hypotenuse is, but it's the square root of 10. So let's think about this for a second. If we had something like x squared equals 100, right? And we square root both sides. We know what happens on the right, we get 10. But what happens on the left? Well, when we have something that's squared and being square rooted, they essentially cancel each other out, which would just leave us with x, right? So if we take the square root of 10, 3 squared plus x squared equals the square root of 10 squared, we're again going to see those two things canceling out. The exponent of 2 and the square root sign cancel each other out, just leaving us with 10. In the same way that we were just left with x. 3 squared gives us 9, and we can subtract 9 from both sides, leaving us with x squared equals 1. Now we'll take the square root of both sides, and what a lot of people forget sometimes is that 1 is also a perfect square. So if we take the square root of 1, we just get 1. 1 centimeter is our second leg length in number 11. Finally, number 12, we know what our hypotenuse is. 4 squared plus x squared equals 7 squared. 16 plus x squared equals 49. We'll subtract 16 from both sides, giving us x squared equals 33. We'll square root both sides, and there's nothing we can do with that. So the square root of 33 centimeters is our answer. All right, on to the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Remember, when we're doing this, all we have to do is plug these 3 numbers in to our Pythagorean theorem and see if we get a true statement or a false statement. Our answer here is either going to be yes or no. So remember, C has to be your biggest number. Luckily, all the largest numbers are fully to the right here, so we could just plug them in left to right as A, B, and C. We get 15 squared plus 16 squared equals 20 squared. 225 plus 256 equals 400, and that is not correct. We end up getting what? 481 equals 400. That is not true. So our answer is no. This does not form a right triangle. Now it still will form a triangle. It'll look something like that. But this is not a right angle. This angle here would be greater than 90 degrees. We don't have to worry about all that. We just want to know yes or no. Is it a true statement or not? This one is not. Let's take a look at 14. 8 squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. 64 plus 225 equals 289, and that is actually correct. We do get 289 equals 289. That's right. So our answer is yes. See what I'm doing there? Hopefully so. We're going to quickly breeze through these last 6. 121 plus 256 equals 400. Close, but not quite. We get 376, and that is not true. 36 plus 64 equals 100. That is true. 100 does equal 100, so our answer is yes. 17, we got 25 plus 144 equals 169. That comes out true. 169 does equal 169. Our answer is yes. Number 18, 144 plus 256 equals 400. And we have another true statement, 400 equaling 400. So our answer is yes again. And finally, last two. 81 plus 144 equals, what is that, 324? It's definitely not going to be right. I can see it already. If we had, what, 656, so 525, 225 equals 324. That is wrong. Our answer is no. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this one's going to work out because take a look. We just got 225 on the left over here. 81 plus 144 equals 225, and we just found out that is correct. So our answer is yes. So that's our Pythagorean theorem work. That's the most fresh lesson in our mind, so I'm sure that we're going to do great with that portion of the final. And yeah, I think that's about it. Enjoy your studying. Let me know if you need anything.